Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Adelaide, but you can call me Ems. Today, I am here slightly off center. But that's so that I can show you some pages out of my Book of Shadows. So, this is the second installment, coming way too many years later, of the ABCs of Paganism. So today is B is for Book of Shadows. This video comes at the request of Adelaide Beeman White here on YouTube, who does amazing Victorian, good, doing the good. So go check her out if you also like historical fashion and just history in general, mostly 1890s. But you know, what Adelaide wants, Adelaide gets. So here is my Book of Shadows. Your Book of Shadows does not have to look like this. This just happens to be how mine looks. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of Book of Shadows. So, where did the name Book of Shadows come from? Upon researching this and looking into it and trying to see different resources and stuff, I realized, wow, it's been forever since I've actually done any actual research, so this is not going to be very, scholarly and such, but essentially it appears that Gerald Gardner made it up prior to the use of the term Book of Shadows. It appears that he used the word grimoire to refer to the same thing, but that sometime between the late 40s and early 50s the term Book of Shadows became the thing. So historically, as in modern history, technically, there was only one Book of Shadows for a coven or within a Wiccan circle, that sort of thing. But practicality has lent it to be everyone has their own copy. This is within Wiccan traditions, starting very much with Gardnerian, and that people would copy out the original and then add to it themselves, versus having one copy that everyone adds to, that usually the high priestess or the high priest would keep or house. And obviously that doesn't really work for a lot of people, but there you go. So that's kind of how it was used originally. It was basically like a book of the spells, rituals, workings, knowledge about deity, all that stuff that the coven held would be in that book. So fast forward to 2022, and it seems like Books of Shadows are very common and widespread within the pagan community. So what are they? What do we use them for? Why should you or should you not have one? I will speak from my personal experience of how I use a Book of Shadows, because I can't speak to anybody else's experience or tradition. So my Book of Shadows I keep in a journal from paper blanks. I just thought it looked very magical. It has these latches on the sides. It just feels very magical. I glued on this pentacle patch here that I got at PantheaCon several years ago. So I glued this on and I've been working through it. I'm back here where this yellow one is now. So I'm getting pretty far through it. But essentially, I use it to compile knowledge that I learn. I use it to take notes after workings and rituals. I use it to take notes when I'm reading magical books, like witchy books. If I want to write down a particular spell I've seen or a particular information about an herb or something, I will put it in the book. As well as, because I'm in the reclaiming tradition of witchcraft, I also take my notes from classes in here. So such as notes from Elements of Magic, which I think I actually got this book after I took Elements of Magic, so there's probably no notes in here from Elements of Magic. There's notes from Iron Pentacle, there's notes from Pearl Pentacle, and there's notes from the Communities class that I'm currently doing right now. As well as there's a couple of sections where I've put in some of my Druid stuff, even though I do tend to keep my Druidry related stuff in its own book. I've incorporated some of it into my Book of Shadows for like, if I want to go out and do ritual, I can just bring this one book, and it kind of has a little bit of everything. So I kind of use it in a journal / multimedia, like, information catch-all book. So this is what this looks like. And then we have the inside of my journal. Sorry for the leaves falling. I'm just covering up my address and name and phone number so that I can show you my Book of Shadows. It has a little protection spell in it in the front, just so that the idea is that people will want to return it to me if they bring it, basically, if they find it somewhere. I also have a little saying here of the air moves us, fire transforms us, water shapes us, earth heals us, and the balance of the wheel goes round and round, which is a chant that I frequently use for the elements, but that's going in there. And then, like, for example, the very opening of the book has the Witch's Rune, as well as an art piece by Mickey Mueller, but I painted it with watercolor paintings. It's from the Llewellyn, which is coloring book, actually, and I cut out the Wheel of the Year. So this just has the Wheel of the Year in there. And then I also made notes of the change of names for some of the festivals for Druidry, such as Yule is Albin Artan, Ostara is Albin Eiler, Litha is Albin Heffen, and Mabon is Albin Alfred. So made those notes. This is one thing that I did because I wanted a lot of information about the festivals at the beginning of my Book of Shadows, just so that I could have a dedicated section to go into, make notes about, maybe write down a recipe that's meant for that specific festival, that sort of thing. Turns out I've not really used that. There's a couple of festivals where I've written things down, but there's some that I have written absolutely nothing down for, or even did art for yet. But that is the nature of having a working book. It's something that is never quite finished until it is finished. So even when I finish using all the pages, I'll probably continue to keep the information about Sabbats like in this book and just add here. And then if I have any overflow pages, we'll go into the next book when I get to the next book. So my first one here I put is Samhain. And then there's a blank page with some skeleton washi tape. This is art by Carolyn Vibert from the Llewellyn coloring book, because I've just been using that coloring book for all of my pages. An extra one for Samhain, and then we have the first page for Yule. But then I have, for example, some information about holiday fire magic. So this is just some notes from the 2020 Witch's Companion from Llewellyn. So I've just put down some little notes about holiday fire magic, which go great with Yule, which is why I put them there. Next is the one that I've actually used almost all of the pages I've left for it. So we have Imbolc, which is Brigid's festival, basically, in February. And this one's also by Carolyn Vibert as well. And then I have like some recipes there. So I have like Brigid's seed bread from the Wicca cookbook, Brigid magical bread from the Wicca cookbook, Nova Scotia oat cakes by Molly Watson, because I've made those for Brigid rituals many times. And that's all I have for notes on that. Ostara, I literally don't even have the picture painted yet. I still have to do that. So I've done absolutely nothing for Ostara. Beltane, we have the picture painted, and that is literally it. Litha, I do have some summer solstice stuff in here. So I have this artwork from the coloring book as well. But then on the next page, have an artwork that I got in the Witch's Moon box. Because I used to subscribe to the Witch's Moon box, which was really nice. And I think I would still do like one-off boxes to try out new things, or if there's a theme that I really like. So that's fun. So I got this Midsummer or Litha artwork, just informational artwork. And then, of course, we have Lammas, the same from the coloring book, and then the artwork from the Witch's Moon box. So this is called, they both artworks say Lammas, but I call it Lunasa because I actually do work with Lu, and I do the Feast of Lu. So there you go. And then we have Mabon, which I kind of like jokingly refer to as Witches' Thanksgiving, but it's the second and biggest harvest, basically. So it's just a harvest festival. And then, of course, we have more information there from the Witch's Moon box. And then we kind of go into mixed media random things. So I'll just kind of do some sort of examples. So like elemental spirits, ginger, magical and medicinal properties of ginger. And then I have something from the Witch's Moon box because I got some dried ginger in that. So I just put the informational piece, taped it right in. This artwork is actually done separately, and then I cut it out and pasted it in, just taped it on. We have some fire magic and some art prints about fire. I did a lot of like pasting in stuff about the Witch's Moon box. So I've got a page on turmeric over here, but then like I took pictures of what I got in the box and like notes on the individual items. Most of the stuff I still have too. This is a spell that came in a Witch's Moon box, so I pasted the spell in. I took a picture of the spell candle. This was an oracle card because you would get an oracle card in every box, so I just kind of pasted that in because there was nothing on the back. Yeah, more spells and things. I have a section here with some things such as the Druid's Prayer, the Druid's Prayer for Peace, the Genealogy of Memory from Druidry. I have this information about the chakras, and then I also put each chakra's name in Sanskrit and with their color and stuff like that. And then this is the Maha Mantra, or the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, in both English and Sanskrit. This is an example of kind of doing another mixed media page. It's a lot of pasted in information and stuff. And then this is a card holder because this card has information on both sides. So I've just put a little pocket in there so it can come in and out. I have an invocation to the Morrigan. I have an informational page on the Triple Goddess. I have more cards and spells and things like that. I have a sigil that's meant to help like intensify like the good aspects of your sign, basically, of like your sun sign. So that's pretty fun. Some more druid stuff that I can't share. Yeah, there's a lot of just stuff in here. I can kind of hold this one back far. So I did a picture of a tree, and I have these basically like invocations that I have from Druidry that are related to the roots, the trunk, and the branches of a tree, as well as I have the song Spirits, which is from a Reclaiming album. We use it a lot to honor the mighty dead in witchcraft. The mighty dead being people who have died in the name of witchcraft, who were not witches, people who were actually witches and have passed, that sort of thing. So we have an acknowledgement of the mighty dead there. We have an invocation of Nemain, which is like the carrion crow, the frenzy and terror side of the Morrigan. I have just a note on an anger into action oil blend that I got from a podcast. And then a Bridget's Braid invocation, which is done by having 3 people say this invocation back and forth, basically representing the smith, the bard, and the healer. Devocation of Brigid, the song Caradwyn Taliesin by Dave the Bard. I do a lot of song lyrics in here, especially if I'm going to sing them at a ritual. I literally have my like ovate grade ceremony. Ritual for cleansing the kitchen before ritual cooking from the Wicca cookbook. I thought that was a really fun little thing. My 2020 word of the year was breathe. So it was all air related. And then I have lots of notes because I was working with the Hedge Witch Book of Days in 2020. So I have a lot of notes from the Hedge Witch Book of Days. A lot of what I did in 2020 was related to that book. The magic of tea. I literally just picked a tea in my cupboard and wrote down like the magical properties of all the ingredients in the tea, as you do. It's a great way to like work on your like herbalism and like understanding how things work. I have a song that I wrote at Witch Camp in 2019, which is We Are Taliesin. I transcribed it over into the book because I had it in a separate notebook that I had taken to Witch Camp. I've got all kinds of things in here, like things from when I used to go on Witches and Pagans Amino app, and I have some stuff that I wrote in there. A simple grounding song that somebody else wrote at Witch Camp 2019 as well. Yeah, just lots of notes from books, that sort of thing, candle magic tips. I wrote a story for Imbolc 2020 that I've put in there. Then there's also when my father passed away in 2020, I actually wrote down a dream that I had involving him. So I wrote that in there. So it was a dream kind of about him and what kind of afterlife he's having. So that's fun. Then, you know, notes from readings when I go to my friend Josie's house. So we have readings from her. We have notes from when I reread The Spiral Dance this year. Well, not this year, in the last couple of years. I've been rereading Spiral Dance, so I have some notes on there. I designed some teas inspired by yin and yang energies, meant to be like shadow working teas. So I've kind of made those notes there. Those are available on my Hawthorne Mystics Instagram if you want to see what the teas are. More notes on the Spiral Dance. Notes on the coven, like how a coven structure works, that sort of thing. Some notes from meetings I've had. Ostara planning, summer solstice planning. Oh, this was a good little section on cauldron prayers from the House Witch book. Some threshold magic, where I'm just kind of drawing a little door, little red door. So some magic of the threshold. And another invocation to the Morrigan. I work with Morrigan a lot. Yeah, there's my notes on Iron Pentacle and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's really just a kind of like a multimedia, mixed media journal, art journal sort of thing that I do with my Book of Shadows. And it really is basically just tracking myself and my own work in my path. And it also helps with, oh, I remember I did that spell like at some point. When did I do that? And how has it worked out for me? So like looking back at your own works and your thoughts about it then and seeing your new thoughts about it now. So in my practice, it's become less of a way of connecting me to my traditions and stuff, and more of a way of connecting with my own path and the way that I I think and feel about my own path and what's going on in it and how I'm progressing and things like that. This is pretty much just my own little track record that is kept for my own sake. It's not really meant for other people to read and understand and know what I'm talking about. It's literally just for me, and I can remember spells that I've done or rituals that I've done, or I can revisit old invocations when I'm like, oh, that invocation I did in Samhain 2018 was so good, I should do that again. Got it right here, baby. So that's why I think it's like really important to have some kind of journal, even if you're not going to call it a book of shadows, if you want to call it a grimoire, if you just want to journal with your workings and stuff like that. It's very difficult to do like an informational like video about books of shadows because they are so personal now. Really, the best way to have a book of shadows is the way that you'll actually use it. I tried forever to have like the perfectly ordered book of shadows and like a 3-ring binder and having dividers and all of that, and that did not work for me because the constant reorganizing was keeping me from actually doing work. So I went with the bullet journal method in here of I just turn to the next page and use it. It doesn't matter if I was in the middle of another thought, I will continue that thought later in another page, and that's fine. And I'll just make like a note being like continued on page 75 or whatever. If I count my pages, which I haven't numbered my pages, but I'm hoping I might number them in future and then make a not a glossary, a table of contents when I finish the book. So when the book is filled, making a table of contents for it and sticking it in the front and numbering all the pages, I think would be a good endeavor for archiving it. And then I can have another book. I have more patches to put on my next book so that they kind of like go together, you know? So that's just a little bit about Book of Shadows. Let me know if you have any further questions. Maybe I can answer them in the comments below. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Goodbye.